Employers and managers who had to fire someone on their first day. What happened? 40-something-year-old woman came in smelling of alcohol in a toy store for her first day as a seasonal employee. She threw up on herself in between helping customers. Wasn't a manager, but we had a kid who came into the shop and his first day of night shift they couldn't find him. Well, they found him after a few hours. He cleaned off a shelf in the parts room and was sleeping on it. I worked at a drugstore. They hired some girl, and on her first day behind the counter alone she spent 20 minutes scratching unpurchased lotto tickets and throwing away any losers until the manager saw what she was doing on the security camera and booted her. I worked at an upscale cocktail lounge as a bartender. One day my boss hired this new guy to work behind the bar with us. It was rush and the bar was packed and we were all running around. Then this new guy comes up to the sink behind the bar, kneels down, puts his hair under the running faucet and then flings his head back, leaving a splatter on the wall behind him. He then proceeds to smooth his hair down at rush in front of customers. He didn't stay long. My old manager, matron at a psychiatric secure hospital, told me of a guy who was employed as a healthcare assistant, working with people with a learning disability. Part of his role involved escorting patients into the community to help them with shopping. He took his first charge to a shopping center and proceeded to spend £250 on their debit card buying electronic goods for himself, which he then brought back to the hospital and asked for them to be stored in the staff room until the end of his shift. He left with the police. IT position. Supposedly had a BA in computer science with 2 years experience in relevant technical position. I didn't interview him. We very quickly discovered that his computer abilities were non-existent, started asking questions until he broke down and said he lied on his resume because he wanted to make more money. His previous job was drywall installation. We gave him a list of software he needed, available via URL. He didn't know what to do with the URL or what a URL was, and then it quickly unraveled. It was about 3 hours because the first 2 were paperwork. I worked for a company that takes care of the HR needs of other small companies in my area. New hires often come in to fill out paperwork. We had this guy who came in, filled out his name and social security number, gave it to us, then proceeded to steal the front desk guy's wallet and keys. Right in front of the very visible security camera. Turns out the police knew the guy as he was a repeat offender. He lived right around the corner. At the company I used to work at, I was front desk / shipping / receiving. Guy came in for an interview for customer service that apparently went well. Everything fell apart when he clumsily pretended to tie his shoe beside my desk, in front of the door, so he could steal a half-empty can of compressed air that I had on a low shelf. He tried to sneak out with it, but I confronted him and then told the office manager what happened. Needless to say, he did not get the job. I didn't fire this guy personally, but I did one better. I arrested him. I'm a police officer in the UK. I was forced to help on a recruitment event in our headquarters where applicants turned up, listened to a talk and did a few exams. Almost all wore suits or shirts and ties, except one. One was wearing a black polo shirt, black combat trousers and tactical boots. Weird and a bad impression, but whatever. Whilst they do the exam, I went into the yard for a smoke. All the applicants had to park in a certain area, which was just by the smoking shelter. One car stood out. It looked just like our unmarked cars, exactly like our unmarked. I was a little confused, so I had a closer look at it. It had radiator lights and on the back seat was a police-issue stab vest. I thought that it must be one of our cars parked in the wrong place. It happens. After the exam they left. I watched them leave and lo and behold, polo shirt man gets in the unmarked car. Immediately I jump in a real unmarked and take off after him. I found him 2 streets away putting blue lights on and driving through a red light. I overtook him, put my lights on and blocked him. He gets out waving a fake warrant card telling me he was en route to an emergency. Arrested for impersonating a police officer. He was also suspected of doing the same in about 3 other forces. I hired someone to write about cars for a website I was editing. Saw some of their work, they seemed eager and well-educated. I thought it would be a good fit. The very first piece of copy he turned in on his very first day was a plagiarized copy of something I had written 2 years prior. I just sent him a link to my original piece that he plagiarized, and never heard from him again. The job hours were from 8 a.m. to 4:30 p.m., Monday through Friday. Our new hire showed up about 10 minutes late on the first day. Normally 10 minutes late isn't that big a deal to me, but it was his first day, and I had pulled 3 other staff members into our 8 a.m. meeting so we could discuss the training schedule with our new hire. So we are already in our meeting when the new guy walks in. He doesn't apologize for being late. He just sits down as I'm going over the training schedule for the week. After a few minutes of listening to us discuss what he's going to be doing for the rest of this week, he raises his hand and says, "Can we reschedule the afternoon sessions planned for today and tomorrow? I have to leave at 11 today and 12:30 tomorrow." This was the first time I was hearing about these plans. I asked the 3 staff supervisors to give me an opportunity to speak with the new guy alone for a few minutes. They leave the room, so I start talking to the guy about how he can't just change his schedule without running it by management first. As I'm talking to this guy, he gets a text. He looks down at his phone and puts his hand up, as if he were telling me, "I'll be with you right after I finish reading this text." As soon as he finished reading the text and looked back at me, I said, "This isn't going to work. Please make sure you take everything you brought with you and do not return. I'll have HR email you your separation papers." He seemed pretty shocked and asked what he did wrong, so I told him. He tried to explain himself, but I told him that it's best if he finds somewhere else to work. Work at a used record store. While giving the guy the tour, he mentions how we underbelly our LPS and lets us know he's just going to use his employee discount to resell all the good stuff that comes in our eBay store. He lasted about an hour. Not first day, but I had to fire a delivery driver because she couldn't drive. Had a license, just couldn't drive a vehicle safely to save her life. Scared one of my other drivers, another manager, and finally was recommended to me that I do a ride-along to ensure they weren't out of their minds. Nope, she was a horrible driver. 2-lane road, spent most of the time with wheels over the fog line because she was afraid of cars coming her way. Needless to say, I now ask prospective delivery drivers if they can drive well. Training my lifeguards for the summer when one girl couldn't swim. The test can be strenuous if you haven't done any physical activity for a while, but this girl couldn't make it halfway across the pool without needing to be saved herself. Parents tried to sue for wrongful termination until we had then come watch her daughter start drowning a minute into the test. People. I had an employee who worked for a week. He went to a comedy club, ordered $60 worth of food and booze. When he couldn't pay, he asked if they would charge it to the company he works for, which they declined. The manager of the comedy club called me the next day to talk it over with me. I told him to go pay it that day, since it was payday. He didn't pay them. I fired him the next day. A new hire posted to her Facebook page that she was starting a new job, but she was just doing it for the health insurance because she was trying to get pregnant. Then she was going to quit. Basically, she was going to work there for 9 months, take paid maternity leave for a couple of months, get the medical expenses paid for, then leave. Boss got wind of this on the first day and fired her. That's very tricky legal territory, but essentially she had lied in her interview saying that she wanted a long career with the company, then admitted online that she was just scamming them for healthcare. Share any stories that you have of employees who were fired on their first day in the comment section down below, and please like and subscribe for more entertaining stories from askreddit.